I have good news for Panther fans. Just because he didn't do it publicly didn't mean Bryce Young didn't get mad. The best possible indicator that Bryce Young can turn around his career in Carolina came out in an ESPN article this morning. I am giddy. Giddy. ESPN.com article by David Newton. Many of you know his coverage of the team. Started with this. I mean, it's poetry, and Newton spun words. Here it is. Bryce Young was fed up, shouting, cursing, spit coming out of the mouth, fed up. The Carolina Panthers had just lost 16-13 at the Chicago Bears in a Thursday night game and fallen to 1-8. The rookie quarterback felt the team was playing not to lose rather than playing to win. That's how the article started. That's how the article started. Thank goodness that moment existed. Thank goodness that moment existed after that Thursday night game. Bryce Young should have been spitting mad after that game, and he should have voiced that to the rest of the team, and he should have felt comfortable using coarse language, and he should have looked at his veteran teammates who are older than him with more experience in the face and said that's not good enough, and he should have wanted to play for the win. And that game should have stung him more because that's the team that executed the trade. The Bears could have drafted him number 1 overall. They traded his rights away. DJ Moore, the picks, all of that. We remember the trade, right? And Bryce Young definitely heard everybody saying, shouldn't have made the trade. Oh gosh, look how good DJ Moore is playing. Should have kept him. Shouldn't have made the trade. He should, that's a revenge game for him. He should have been furious. And now we know, thanks to the reporting by David Newton, he was. I've been looking for this. One of the more frustrating moments of the season for me is when Bryce Young threw the tablet down on the sideline, then walked to the offensive line and tapped his chest and said, "My bad." Because for the walk, once he threw the tablet on the ground and he was walking, I thought he was going to go get in someone's face. Not disrespectfully, not to embarrass them, but to tell somebody, we got to be better than that.
This is what we've been waiting for.
That walk down, I was like, yes, we've seen all the greats do it. We've seen them all do it. We've seen Mahomes get fired up. We've seen Manning. We've seen Brady. We've seen, they all, when things aren't going well, hold their teammates accountable on the sideline, and you can't always say it, 2 compliments and a criticism. You can't always read the management books and go over and say, I love your effort. I loved what you did on second down. However, your third down was trash. Sometimes you just have to walk over and say your third down was trash, and if it's not better, we're going to have to deal with it. The walk. He threw the tablet down. He walked over. I was like, yes, yes, yes. Then he looked at the offensive line, tapped his chest, and if you read his lips, he said, "My bad." And I'm like, no. Well, it turns out after the Thursday night game against the Bears, a 3-point loss, he was mad. And he did let his teammates know. And he was comfortable holding them accountable. And he was the leader that I hope he is. The absolute only, the life preserver in a wide open ocean, the only chance Bryce Young has to be successful in Carolina is if he is wired like a freak competitor. He has to lead a change in culture. You have to take a team, a locker room, it's filled with losers. You won 2 games this year, and it's not like you won those games handily. You squeaked out 2 games this year. You lost 15. Overwhelmingly, that group this year was the worst team in the NFL. You have to take that team and make them believe they're winners. You have to take that team and drag them into winning. That's why you were drafted number 1 overall. You have to be a freak competitor, and it will not be easy. You can't be beaten down by a lot of losing. You can't get comfortable losing. I hope there were 5 instances of him getting this mad at the offense behind the scenes this year that we don't know about. And I don't know how David Newton found out about this one, but
props to him.
I hope there was 5 more. Can't overdo it, right? You can't 15 losses, you can't be, given your, spitting mad cursing speech after all 15, because then you become white noise, you fade into the background, guys start to tune you out. But when there is a particular moment where things are particularly frustrating and an opportunity was squandered, you need the required anger. You need it, right? There's, I don't know, weird things that coaches said to me throughout my life stick with me. And one time I was a junior, right, and in high school. So again, it's weird times to remind you of things. And my coach, our high school coach, had a rule that to be a captain, you had to be a senior, right? So our captains were seniors. And he called in me and a couple of the other juniors, and he said, listen, we have captains and we have line leaders. The captains that we named at the beginning of the year, the seniors, they're line leaders. But I want you guys to be the captains in terms of leadership. And the difference between captains and line leaders stuck with me. I don't care who's the most senior person on the Panthers. They can stand at the front during stretching, right? They can run the first drill during conditioning. I don't care who's the most veteran. I don't care who's the most accomplished on the Panthers. I want Bryce Young to be the captain, right? I want Bryce Young to be the one who, when things aren't going well, he's calling them out. Because he's the only one with a guaranteed future on this team. He's going to be around, right? He's the number one pick. They invested a lot in him. He's going to be around. And as a quarterback, you're the only one who the record is attached to, you and the head coach. Nobody ever goes, oh, this offensive guard who is, 42 and 38 in his career. Well, with quarterbacks, they do, right? With quarterbacks, that win-loss is a quarterback stat. So you have to own that. The fact of the matter is, 16-13 Chicago, you could have won that one. You could have won that one. You fell to 2-8. You fell to 1-8. You would have been 2-7. Feels different. Just one game feels different. The picks, the trade, all of that should have been eating away at you. And I love that it was. I love that he took off the polished Bryce thing. Right? I've said this all season. I don't think we've gotten to know that guy at all with his interactions with the media. He knows exactly what to say. Peyton Manning used to do this thing that stuck out to me. And I'm sure he trained all the quarterbacks that go to the Manning Academy and everything to do it. Where, like, if Graham was interviewing Peyton Manning, Graham would say, like, hey, Peyton, that third down, what happened? And he would go, Graham. And then he would answer his question. That third down, I saw Marvin Harrison. I threw the pass. He's a great player. Line did great. Graham. If you go back and watch any of Peyton Manning's post-game interviews where he's on the field, he says the interviewer's name at the beginning and end of every answer. And it's a weird thing, right? It makes the everybody like him. It makes feel like he's connecting with you. It's a social thing. But the more I noticed it, it's one of those things. It's like a drip in the faucet in the other room. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it, and it starts to become like less authentic. It's like, okay, you're just guaranteeing that's like it's a bit, it's a trick. You're trying to convince me that you're connecting with me rather than actually connecting with me. I get some of that vibe from Bryce. Like, he's so media trained, he's so media polished, he knows what he's supposed to say, and he says that. I love that there was a moment after a loss in privacy amongst his teammates where he dropped his guard and he gave him the business. I wish there would have been, more of a reaction to it and maybe, a turning point in the season, but you can only do so much. The only way he turns around his career in Carolina is if he lets that person flourish. And again, you don't have to be a jerk about it. No name calling. You don't. But you need that fire. You need that competitive streak. It's the best news I've heard in a while for the Carolina Panthers. Best news I've heard in a while for the Carolina Panthers. I don't care who their coach is. I don't care who their GM is. The leader of that team next year has to be Bryce Young. Has to be. If he's going to be successful in Carolina.